improve the lives of individuals, families, and communities. We believe all people should have what they need to live their healthiest lives and reach their full potential. To accomplish this, JSI works hand in hand with government agencies, community organizations, and the private sector to design pragmatic strategies for complex problems. We drive measurable impact in public health, healthcare, and education to enhance the well-being of people in the United States and around the world. As a global organization, JSI has designed, delivered, and scaled programs in more than 50 countries worldwide. In the US, JSI's worked in evaluation, training and technical assistance, policy, and strategy in all 50 states and has teams in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, DC, Georgia, Colorado, and California. JSI has 4 affiliate organizations. One is in Kenya, another is in Zambia, in India, and in the Netherlands. So I described the charts module as accommodating. So we'll start by defining that, and then we'll talk about a kind of big tent philosophy that I see in Drupal. We'll then introduce charts and talk about what makes it accommodating. And then I have a challenge for today to back my claim that charts is actually accommodating. And then I'll share some next steps for your own exploration if you're interested, as well as some of the next steps that I see for the charts module. And then we'll end with a short reflection and Q&A. So accommodating means being willing to help and do things for other people. To use it in a sentence, Drupal is accommodating to users with different needs by committing to ensuring that all features of Drupal core align with the guidelines from the World Wide Web Consortium's Web Accessibility Initiative. Drupal could cater specifically to DREEs, but instead it serves the public. And since software doesn't have agency yet, it's actually a reflection of its developers. And so as a community, I do think that we're very accommodating, and you should all give yourselves a pat on the back. Okay, so in politics, the big tent describes an inclusive party that encourages a wide range of people to join. And while Drupal does have standards and it may encourage certain norms like being a maker rather than a taker, everyone is generally welcome to use Drupal. As I try to depict in this droplet, Drupal is for both the individual and for the enterprise. It's for the beginners and the experts. So I guess that kind of brings up the question of, how do you try to fit all these users under one roof? Like, how do you satisfy all these users' specific needs? Well, you need to build a flexible system, and you have to work to remove barriers to entry. And that's one of the things that I've tried to do with charts. So what is the charts module? Essentially it's a contributed Drupal module, but it's actually more than that. It's actually an ecosystem of modules that are involved in generating data visualizations within Drupal. And I'm not going to spend too much on this slide because you're going to be seeing a lot of charts today. But how is charts accommodating? First, it has 9 different charting libraries available that can be easily swapped. So you can choose one that's free and open source. You can also bring your favorite proprietary one. And there's also multiple ways of installing the library. You can use Composer, you can use Yarn or NPM. You can also just do nothing and let it use the built-in CDN option. We've also worked on reducing barriers to entry by enabling charts to be created and configured within the user interface. They can also be created and enhanced with code. So these are the available charting libraries. I'm not going to really spend any time talking about them, but the way the charts is designed is basically configuration options that are applicable to almost all of these different libraries. And then there are options that you'll see a little bit later for customizing according to some of the unique features of the different libraries. So like I said, there's multiple installation methods. By default, chart will reach out to a CDN to get the JavaScript that's required. But if you install libraries on your machine, then Drupal will use, the charts module will use the libraries that are local rather than using the CDN. And you can use composers, asset packages to bring them in, or use like create a site level package.json and then install with Yarn. Okay, so today's challenge is to build single chart in 8 ways. And I chose this chart because it's not very complex, but it's not, especially simple either. It's got multiple series, it's stacked, and there's a decent amount of data there. Um, and I also like that it tells a story because it's showing DrupalCon attendance by region over time. And so you can see, it's easy to find, um, you can kind of pinpoint the pandemic by seeing the global DrupalCon. You also see a little bit of what looks like tapering off, but then, starting 22 to 24, it does look like there's maybe a little bit of an increase there. And so I'm hoping we get really good numbers at Vienna and the trend starts going up again. So the first method that I'll display is what I usually fall back on, which is building a chart through the views module. And this is really good for displaying dynamic data from within your Drupal site. There's no coding required. You get all the benefits of views like filtering, sorting, contextual filters. You can use exposed filters to have it be a more dynamic experience. And the data will update as whatever you're plotting in views updates. Normally, I guess, would be a node or maybe a storage entity. The challenge is that for beginner users, views can be pretty intimidating. And then you can't easily chart external data. There are modules that you can use that allow your view to connect to external databases, but that's pretty advanced. And then with entities and views, you do run into performance considerations if you're wanting to plot a large data set. Method 2 is still going to be views, but instead of reaching into your Drupal database, it will reach into a CSV file using the views CSV source module. This is a module that I presented on not too long ago at Drupal GovCon. And if you're interested, I can send you a link. The benefits to this are that you can use a file that you upload or a remote CSV file. You don't have to do any content management, which is a big a big gain sometimes. And then there's also performance improvements with this because you're not having to load each entity to get the field values. And it hooks into a PHP library that streams data from the CSV. It is one additional module to enable, and there's some considerations in terms of managing that CSV file. And depending on how you do it, it may be less dynamic than entity-based data. But it's definitely a good option, and I recommend it. The third method is using the chart field. So this is packaged with the charts module, and it's just a field type, so you can add it to any fieldable entity. This is great if you have like product page or something like that, and you want to like add some stats or something like that about it. And you can, if you want more of like a flexible kind of content layout, you can have a paragraph type, for example, that has a chart field on it. And so, it doesn't have to just be like stuck in one place on your node. And you get the benefits of like revisioning and multilingual and all that kind of stuff that you have with your normal Drupal entities. The problem with the chart field is that the form that it uses, this we call it data collector table internally, it needs to be populated. You can either do that by manually adding rows and columns through the UI, or you can upload a CSV file in this form and it will populate that table. But it is manual to update it. And there's also less flexibility in terms of some of the layouts and things like that than there are with views. I can talk about that more later. Next method is the chart block. This is great for if you want to display a chart across multiple different pages, you can move it to any region in the site. Um, if you're using Layout Builder, this is an option that you can use. You could also just use a custom chart, excuse me, a custom block type with a chart field on it. So those are both options for Layout Builder. What else? It uses the same form, although in the flyout menu, it's not the best user experience if you just kind of have it the default tray. I always like if I'm doing this, like for this one, I had to like inspect element and like change the width of it so I could see enough of it. Um, but I know that there are some modules that allow you to have a wider settings tray. So that's definitely something that can be overcome. And again, with this one, it's the same form, has some of the same issues as the other couple of methods I mentioned. The next is Charts Text Filter. So this is a CK Editor 5 plugin. If you look in the CK Editor toolbar, you'll see a little blue droplet with a bar chart inside of it. That is the button that you click to insert a chart. It will open up the same form that you've been seeing in the last couple slides to allow you to um, add all the configuration for your chart. And then when you click insert, it will look like this inside your WYSIWYG. The biggest drawback to this one, I would say right now, is there's currently no way to edit it. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. Um, so if you want to change your chart, you just would rebuild it. I guess the nice thing about having this text filter is if you want to have a chart integrated into your text, your flowing narrative, um, then this is the best option for you. Method 6 is Charts Twig module. This is an additional module. So is Charts. Charts Text Filter and Charts Twig are both additional modules. This is maybe more appropriate for theme developers and someone wanting to build a custom template. The nice thing about it is you can get your data from Twig variables and you can do some manipulation inside Twig if you want to. And the challenge is it requires knowing Twig syntax. It's definitely more complicated than the UI methods. It's harder for content editors to modify, and the changes aren't going to roll up until you have a code deployment. There's also something else that drives me crazy, but I'll tell you about that when we get to the demo itself. The seventh is the Charts API. This is just part of the Charts module itself. This is for developers writing custom modules. Nice thing about it is you can there's different ways you create a controller or a plugin, like a block plugin, for example. It really gives you like maximum control. You can integrate with any data source. Have logic in terms of like how you might want to display it, or some of the data could be based on like a user context and things like that. It's also text testable. The problem is it requires PHP skills, and again, if you want to make any changes, you have to deploy code. But definitely a good option. And I should say with the Charts API, there's the render element that you see on the screen here, but you can also use hooks to update charts that you've built via any of the other methods. And then the last method is using the Charts AI Agents module. This extends if you've seen the AI Agents module, it has a AI Agents Extra, which has a views agent. So this extends that view agent, but with customization specifically for charts. This one, I would say at this point is maybe for kind of prototyping or even learning like how to build a chart view. If it fails, basically it will tell you how to create the view yourself. And if it succeeds, it actually gives you a link to go to the view backend so that you can preview your chart and save it. And just to give you an overview, because I know I went through that pretty quickly, I'll just leave it here for a second for people who are going to watch the recording. And now it's time for a demo. Where's my mouse? Okay, here we go. All right, so I have a local site here, and these are I have bookmarks for each of the methods. I think we're already here. So this is an entity-based view. What I'll start with is just going to show you the content type, because I think something that's important to think about when you are doing charting in Drupal is what does your data structure look like? So in this case, I created a content type called Drupal cons, and I added a number field for attendance number. I added an entity reference for the region and an entity reference for year. I imported these from a spreadsheet, so that's why you're seeing the feeds item field here, but that's not necessary. And then in honor of the Austin folks here. So it's just the title is the name of the DrupalCon, the attendance, region, year. If I go to my view, so this is a content-based view filtered to content type DrupalCons. I've got my 4 fields set up here. And then in format, selected chart. And then in the settings, so this is really critical for this specific chart. It needs to be grouped by the region field. Like when you normally group within views, that's when you'll get like a H3 or maybe it's H4. You know, and this is kind of doing the same thing. You can only do it once with the charts module. You can't group by more than one field. And then you can select your charting library. So for all of these, I've used HighCharts. That's the library I use the most. I have a license for it, but the other modules also work very well. Select a column here for the chart type. And then my x-axis is going to be showing years. I have it stacked. I've selected attendance for what gives the data. These colors actually are getting ignored because of this grouping that I set. And there are a couple of different ways of actually like getting the colors that you want when you are grouping your view. I can go into that later, but just to let you know that you can actually choose the colors even if you're not seeing that right now. Yeah, so I've added a title and a subtitle. I added data labels, and then the horizontal axis, I've labeled it as year, and then the y-axis, the vertical axis, I've written attendee count here. So that's it. So, and then I've also got it sorted by year. Okay, so I think you kind of intuitively have a sense of the data structure just from looking at the content type and looking at a specific piece of content. Excuse me. For this one that's based off of a CSV. Actually, yeah. So for this one that's based off of a CSV, I actually changed the data structure to look like this. So in column A, you have year, and then in the next few columns, you have the different regions as the headings. with their data running down, going up and down. So with this one, I need to go to advanced, and then, and by the way, I'm so happy that this advanced is not going to be collapsed by default any longer. So you go to query settings, and this is where you point to the CSV file. So in this case, I think I added a media document, and I just started typing DrupalCon and it found it, and I just selected it. So you can see like this is an autocomplete widget here. That's all I needed to do for this one. And then what I've done in my fields is all the fields for view CSV source, like when you add a new field, you select CSV field, which I'm not going to do that. And then once you're in the configuration for that field, it allows you to select a column from your CSV, and then obviously you can label it however you want. So I've added the title, or excuse me, I've added the year, and then the different regions, and then in the chart settings. So in this case, I'm not needing to group my data because I've already broken it into series within my CSV. Again, high charts, again, column. Years is again what we're using for the label, and we're stacking it. And then in this case, I do need to pay attention to the colors. So I've set these consistent colors with my model chart, and then again, all the same configurations as the other view. So that's how you do that one. I think field was the next one. I guess that, I think I did this one on article. Yes. Okay. So as you can see, I went to my article content type. I did manage fields, and I've just added a field of the type chart. And then if I edit this, so it is a little bit of a different form. There's a preview section up here, by the way, which is very fun. I'm going to come back to that in a second. So you have the charting library, the chart types. When you're using this chart data collection table, you can, depending on how your data are organized, you can either choose to use, like, identify the categories by the first column or the first row. In this case, I have it as the first column, these being the categories. And then this is a lot of data to type, so I didn't do that. I went to import data from CSV. I have it as a comma separation, and then I uploaded a file, and it populated this table. I didn't have to do anything else. And then, you know, the rest of the settings, chart title, subtitle, data labels, these are, with this form, stacking is down here. And then years and attendee count. Something I want to quickly show you is that preview section. So it's on high charts right now. Change it to Google. Oh, this already, yeah, this is Google. You can see it's a little bit different. Oh, eCharts might be from there. Here's chart.js. This is something I don't know for sure. It's unique to the charts module, but I can't think of any other system that lets you kind of toggle different charting libraries like this. Yeah. And be able to kind of preview them instantly. So that was the field, the block. So this is a layout builder enabled page. You can see here it is previewed already. If I configure it, so there it is in the settings tray. Again, oh, wait, oh, okay. That's a little bit better. So same form, just a different background color. And again, even with this one, you can do the import data from CSV. You can do the and then
So Dan,
yes.
in that case, the block is a custom block type.
So this block is a like a config entity block.
Okay.
But you can also create a custom block type and add a field to it.
Hey, Daniel, this
I
is
think I'm
Nora. Can
on
you hear me?
Twig now.
Never mind.
So this is the chart from Twig. I have noticed that the color, I think the colors, actually one thing I've noticed with some of these is the placement of South America in 2015. Sometimes you're going to see it here, sometimes you'll see it here. And I think I've gotten the colors off on some of them, but that was just me not being completely careful about. So let me show you what the twig itself looks like. And also don't judge me too much on the quality of this twig. So to make it, I think, a little bit easy to see for the demonstration, I've set a variable for each of the different regions. So like Europe, North America, etc. And then I have a series variable where I list out those different regions. And then within each one of them, I give them a title. So, and I place their data in the data key, and then there's a color key that you can set. What'd you say? Oh, it's not being shared. Oops. Okay. Let me switch that real quick. Thank you for letting me know. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's good.
All right. So yeah, so Europe, North America, etc. And then
Hey, Daniel,
I'm
can you
putting them
zoom
into
in
the
for
series
us?
array.
Hard for us to see.
And then for the years, I just did kind of a cheat and did range 2005 to 2025. We got x-axis really just for the title and the labels, which are the years. The y-axis just for the title. And then the thing that I mentioned earlier that's been driving me crazy that I realized when I was doing this is that the options for this right now are actually specific to the library that you've chosen. So in this case, I had to use my knowledge of high charts to know that if you want to do stacking, you have to go in through plot options series stacking. Whereas normally what you'll see in the next demo, the API demo, normally you would have like just like this the chart settings, and you could just say stacking equals true, and you wouldn't have to have plot options or series, which are high charts specific. So I think I'm going to try to fix that because it's maddening. But anyway, like so this is how I got stacking, enabling the data labels, adding a subtitle, and the placement of the legend. And so this is actually the chart being generated. So it's just chart, and then you give it an ID, tell it what chart type you want, then title, your series, x-axis, y-axis, and your options. And then I'm going to skip and show you the code for the API first, and then I'll go back to the website. I really don't know how well people can see this, but so I have just a controller here, and it's really just a a render array, so you can see this build variable, and then I did sort of the same layout as I did for Twig, just to make them kind of parallel to each other. So I've got the different data series. I think in a lot of cases, you would just have all this data in one, complex array. And then when you're actually using it, you would say like my array, like first, North America or something like that. But I just separated it out because that's how I had started with Twig. So the key here is basically type needs to be chart. You can see like title and subtitle are there. Chart type, stacking is true, tooltips are true, data labels are true. And then each of the series looks like that. And the critical thing with this is that they have to be type for the series, it has to be type chart data. And then when you get to the x-axis, this has to be chart x-axis, type chart x-axis, and then type chart y-axis. And then you just return that, and that will give you a chart. Let me switch the share. Sorry, I don't work with two screens a lot. I'm really struggling. Okay. So this was Twig. Here's a chart from the API. So you can see. Oh, I think I forgot to put this at the bottom, but anyway, it's basically the same chart. And then, oh, I forgot to do the chart text filter. So this one. Since, like I mentioned, you can't edit this one, I'm just going to create another one. Right, so after let me actually quickly show you. In configuration, go to content authoring, text formats, and editors. Go to your formatter of choice. So like for full HTML, for example, when you've enabled the module but you haven't configured it, you'll have the button up here. You just drag it into the active toolbar. And then you also need to make sure you select charts text filter here. That's what makes it available on your node. So click that. So you can see that same form that you've been seeing over and over again popped up. So it's already on high charts column. I'm going to import data from CSV. Let's see. Oops. I have to make sure I pick the right CSV file. Please ignore.
You're not carrying that.
I think it's this one. No, not that one. Okay. At least we were closer. Um, so instead, since I can't see very well to see what the file name, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a different chart, so just so you can see. I'm just going to delete this column and this column. So we have our year categories, and then we have our attendee number. Let's change this. All right, let's make it magenta. DrupalCon attendees by year. I'm just going to insert it. So you can see the elements there. And then when I save it, yeah, it's a little bit rough, but so that's how you do it. And before you insert it, you can actually go back to the preview section that we saw earlier and make sure that it looks good in that preview before you insert it. Oh, and just you might have noticed this chart JSON. So I have chart debugging enabled. And so if you open this up, you actually see the JSON object that is getting created by the charts module. And this is what gets sent to the JavaScript library. So you can actually copy this and go to like most of the charting libraries have a demo site. So like HighCharts, for example, has a demo site. You can just paste this into like, I'm blanking on both of the two major websites where you can like try out JavaScript. And you can actually see your chart in there and you can like add properties or take away properties and try to figure out maybe why your chart's not looking exactly the way you expect it to.
We have a way to have a table as well for, or is that?
So HighCharts does have an accessibility library that you can select to have, and I encourage everyone to add it. If you click on this, the hamburger menu right here, it says view data table. Yeah, so you can see that.
That's kind of good. That's part of the HighCharts.
Yeah, actually, I may show you that because that is kind of, it's a little bit tricky right now. So go to content authoring, charts configuration. And when you select HighCharts as your default library, then you'll get HighCharts settings. And then you can select all these different HighCharts modules. When I say module, I mean like JavaScript modules, not Drupal modules. So I can also, for accessibility purposes, I can also enable the texture library. Let's do that real quick. So now you can see they're also textured.
That's great.
Yeah.
By color alone, that's great.
And then the last one was AI. So for this one, I have like 3 tickets that got generated in the course of developing this demo. And I'm actually running into I have another demo site where I have this enabled and I can just open up the AI chatbot and paste in my prompt. I'm going to actually, what's happening right now is it's failing and then it just tells me how to create a view that's a chart, which is helpful, but not for me. Yeah, but if you go to there's like a AI agents settings and there's like this like explore option. So you come here and you select the charts views agent. I've pre-written the prompt, but I'll read it. It says, create a view page with a chart display that shows content of the type Drupal cons. The chart type should be column and the library should be HighCharts. The label field should be year and the data provider should be attendance. The view should be grouped by the region field. The display should be stacked. Data labels should be enabled. The x-axis title should be years and the y-axis title should be attendee count. The legend should display at the bottom, sort ascending by the term reference field year. And then I'm going to use Gemini because that's the only thing I have available right now. So I'll click Run Agent. And this takes a little bit of time. And you'll start to see like it runs different processes. So the first one is like this determine views task charts. And you can see like in the response, so it knows like action create, the title should be DrupalCon's attendance. Here's, this is going to be the view ID. Here's the path that it's going to be at. It even like writes a description for me. We can see in the chart settings, the library is HighChart, etc. So after it does that one, it does determine fields tasks. And then it does, it determine field configurations. And then after this one, there's another for determining whether or not the view is filtered. Well, actually, yeah, it does a field configuration task for each of the fields that you've mentioned in your prompt. And then it runs to see if it needs to do a filter. And then it should run to see if it needs to do a sort. Yes, good. Okay. So then in the response, just grab this URL. I may need to borrow your glasses, Bob.
You gotta try.
I don't know if they'll help you.
Okay, there we go. And there's the chart. So the colors are a little bit off. The reason for that is it didn't add the title field because I didn't ask about it. If you look at the settings, like the value that it's starting on, well, actually, maybe I'm wrong there. It's just kind of randomly adding some of the default colors. But yeah, so it generated something, and then I can go through and make changes to that. So, and you can even like say, use the chart.js library, it'll switch to using that. So that's the end of the demo. Let me go back to presentation.
And that piece there is part of the charts, the charts AI
Charts AI agents.
agent that works with does it have another dependency?
Yeah. So it's go there.
The AI extras or something like that, you said?
Mhm. Yeah, this is it. And there was some debate about whether it should be AI agents charts or charts AI agents. And I went to the AI agents ecosystem. Let me just go there. And there's no standardization. So so let me continue on. Okay, so that was a pretty basic chart. Some other things you can do with the charts module is you can create combination charts. So basically having one series as like a column and another as a line, for example. You can also create a chart that has a secondary y-axis. You can do that in any of them. For more advanced chart types like candlestick charts and things like that, you can do that. For views, there's actually a specific field in views that's made for charts that's called numeric array. And you decide how many items you want in that array. So like if you wanted a bubble chart that usually has like a X, Y, and a Z value, Z being like how big the bubble is. And so you can set that to 3, or if you need like a candlestick or something like that, you can set it to a different value. And actually, like Google requires a certain number of items in your array to create that type of chart, whereas like high charts requires fewer. So you can set the chart type that you want, and then you use your numeric array to determine how many elements in that array. And then within those, like the field and things like that, if you go into one of the cells, let me actually do that. How am I doing on time? Ooh, right on the, okay, right on the hour. Actually, I'm going to skip that. I'm just going to mention it. So you can put a comma within a cell, and that turns into an array. And then, so if you want to have a scatter plot or something like that, you can still use that form. I showed the charts debug already. There's also a color changer option that exposes the ability to change the color of the chart to an end user. So if someone's like on your site, they like want to download an image of your chart, they can change the color to whatever they desire and then download it, and then they'll have that color. We also have an option that's come up recently to have extra configuration on a like library plus like chart type combination. So like if you have a pie chart for high charts, you can add additional fields to have it be like a single color with like a gradient, for example. And then I just wanted to mention there's a bunch of additional modules that you might consider. Charts exposed settings allows you to have an end user add a title, x-axis, y-axis, like into a chart. You can add a caption to a high chart. There's a way to drill down into high charts. You can also group the categories. There's a map option for high charts. If you have a lot of data that you need to load, you can use Views Ajax lazy load blocks. And so like if you have like say 10 charts on one page, they lazy load, so you're not killing your performance. The View CSV source I already mentioned. You can use this if you need like a cumulative like line or something like that. Denormalizer allows you to take an entity and create a denormalized table in your database that you can read from using Views database connector. And that allows you to have a more performant chart. This allows you to use views field view, but with lazy load. Views field on off allows you to toggle off like certain columns in your data. Views share would allow you to share a chart as an iframe in another site. And simple math field will allow you to do calculations. So future of card charts, I want to do a little bit of increased focus on accessibility, particularly on some of the open source ones that don't have the level of support that HighCharts does. I'd like to figure out some recipes that would be useful to people and create those. Documentation is always a challenge. I'd like to have some increased analytical capabilities, including potentially like people being able to interface with the chart and say, hey, like predict this out for the next 5 years, thing like that.
Like time series predictions?
Yeah. More functional AI integration, like it's getting there, but it's not able to aggregate currently, for example. And then at some point, maybe you're replacing Ajax with HTMX. So as just a quick reflection, being accommodating can be both good and bad with people. If you're too accommodating, you're a doormat and people walk all over you. The downsides to being accommodating with charts module and Drupal itself is that you're potentially funneling precious time that, including from unpaid contributors, away from maybe real issues facing users to ones that you think users want. And it's really hard to get information about what users actually want. The more solutions you have, the more code you have to manage, and this can lead to poorly maintained code and/or burned out maintainers. And there's also such a thing as too much choice. So like I face this difficulty anytime I go for fast casual. I'm like looking and I'm like, what do you want on your sandwich? And I'm like, I don't know. There's too many options. There's a lot of benefits though. So hopefully by removing barriers, you're serving more people and people who might not otherwise have an appropriate solution. And having more modules can also expose flaws or areas for improvement that can actually lead to strengthening of your core, like the charts itself, and not, like strengthening your code. It also means there's more opportunities for other people to take on leadership roles, such as being maintainers or co-maintainers. I'd also hope that this helps people feel a sense of accomplishment, and that's not nothing. And although I doubt that charts is the sole reason that anyone is like adopting Drupal, I think if enough contributed modules kind of take this approach of trying to be super accommodating all together, that may actually lead to greater Drupal adoption. So yeah, that's it. Question? I mean, we're kind of late for questions probably, but
If people can hang as long as they want, as far as I'm concerned. Does anybody have any questions out there in the Zoom? Which I don't know
let's
if
see.
they can hear them.
Yeah, I'm turning on my speaker.
May I ask, was this recorded?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Hey, Dan, can you hear me?
I didn't even know you guys were doing this today.
Oh,
It's really cool.
Thank you.
Just happened to be here.
Hey, Daniel, can you hear me?
Unless-
So this is all done with Drupal, right? Is that? I need to.
Okay, now
I'm wondering what's happening here.
I'm stopping my share just to read the messages.
You do things like heat maps and images.
Heat maps you can do. I don't. You can download images with some of the libraries, like HighCharts allows you to download an image of your chart. There's, yeah, I can bring up in a minute the charts API example module that has like all the charts pretty much. I'm trying to see if there's questions
I'm
here.
using Streamlit, and I think that this is probably a lot more specific than Streamlit.
I haven't heard of Streamlit, but it does. There's HighCharts plus there's a bunch of other ones that have some pretty good features too.
Yeah.
Um,
I could show you. In fact, that's what I came here to do.
Hey, Bob, Daniel,
Oh,
anybody? Can you hear me?
sorry, Nora. The question was about if you can create heat maps with the charts module, which you can. Not every library supports it, and then you can also download pictures.
Oh, cool.
There are some questions farther up in the chat. Did you want me to read them out loud?
HighCharts developer license is like 1,000 something bucks, but it's like, as far as I know, it's like once you get the license, it's like unlimited sites and yeah.
Right.
Were there any questions in the Slack channel? Oh, I see. Dan asked if I can share the sort of ecosystem modules. I can, and if you also go to drupal.org/projects/charts/ecosystem, you can see a lot of them there. Oh yeah, thanks for the link, JD. I have not, I see one from Chris. I have not tried Canvas yet. Oops. I would assume that a CK Editor 5 plugin should work with it, but I could be totally off there. And then the single directory components, I also haven't tried. I mentioned Andy to think about if that makes sense. I love people's opinions about that. I haven't used them myself, really. So it's like harder for me to. Oh, and then Justin asked which free chart library is recommended. I've been on a little bit of an Apex chart kick lately because it's very similar to, let me go there. Am I still sharing my screen? I don't think I am.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, true. There you go.
Okay. So I've been liking Apex charts recently. It's pretty similar to high charts in terms of the API, and it has a lot of options. You can see a bunch of them here, scrolling down this image. So including like, there's more that it supports actually than that are in this image. The only problem is they changed their licensing terms recently. And if your company makes over a certain amount, which is, I want to say, it's in the millions of dollars of revenue, then you need to start buying a license. But the license is pretty expensive. So that kind of turned me off to them a little bit. I just like in the past couple days, and I was telling people I vibe coded a bit. Charts Plotly. This one is a really well supported open source charting library. I haven't made a release of this yet because there's a lot of cleanup that needs to be done, but this is one I would watch. Chart JS is included in just the charts module itself, and that one, I do feel like a lot of people are using that one. I think my least favorite one is Google. Oh, and actually eCharts is a good one to pay attention to as well. If you go to echarts.apache.org examples, like just scroll through this, like look how many different options there are. And it even includes like maps and things like that. So I feel like because of
Beef cuts.
yeah, yeah.
Now,
There we go. That's the future of charts module. Geo beef cuts. Um, so yeah, that was a long-winded answer. What else we got?
What got you into the charts?
Um, I work for a company that does public health projects, and in public health, measurement is really important. Like if you're tracking an outbreak or something like that, you need to have good data and good data visualizations. And I was on a project where we had a intranet and we were tracking like when we went out into a country. This was on like a nutrition project. So like if we like trained this number of people, or if we had these many meetings, or we gave some sort of assistance to people, we recorded that and actually used the Drupal 7 version of the charts module, which I took over sort of, I built the 8x version of charts. So I took over from the Drupal 7 version. So I was using that and I just enjoyed it, and actually used charts as a way to teach myself PHP because I hadn't really used PHP before that. I mean, yeah, it's become a bit of an obsession now.
You see another site using your charts, or it's kind of hard to see, right? 'Cause it's just
It is. I wish there was more telemetry there. I mean, there's at least 10,000 installs of like modern Drupal versions of the charts module. And it's got 162 stars. So I feel like people are appreciating it. I have seen someone chatted me in the Drupal Slack workspace that they're using the charts module for like a New York state voting website and showing like
results, yeah.
the results with the charts module. And they said they get like 8 million views or something like that. So
8 million users.
or page views at least, yeah. So yeah. Any more in the chat?
Oh, Chris Weber had a question about this in SDC.
Yeah, that was one I didn't have good answer for. Really.
Feel like a handicap.
Yeah, so my answer was basically I haven't tried it with Canvas yet. I'm kind of bad that I default to just using Drupal and not Drupal CMS. And I haven't been very forward thinking with that. Okay. All right, well, I think that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can I see you? In person?